What's up, everybody? It is I, TevinElChopo, friends call me Chop, and we are back with another review. This time, we're talking about season 2 of My Adventures with Superman. My Adventures with Superman is a animated TV show presented by Adult Swim and Max. It started with its first season last year, 2023, and now here we are, 2024, with season 2. So if you don't know what the show is about, My Adventures with Superman is about Superman in the early days of his not only superhero career, but also his career at the Daily Bugle, where he meets Lois Lane, and he also works there with his best friend and roommate, Jimmy Olsen. So season 1 was mainly about Superman's struggles to find himself not only in Metropolis, but also as a superhero as he became Superman. It also spoke a lot more to him trying to figure out his past and also just fight villains of the week and everything like that as well. Season 1 also did a great job of introducing all of our main characters, such as Superman and Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen. I think that their camaraderie throughout both seasons is really done super well, and I think that the voice actors also do an amazing job, especially Superman played by Jack Quaid, who is also Huey of The Boys, and his voice is very unique, so I could tell that that was Huey from The Boys, but it is definitely interesting to see him in another superhero medium where he gets to play a more lighthearted superhero versus a more hardened individual in The Boys. So yeah, that's some of the things that I enjoyed throughout not only this season, but the entire show as a whole. In terms of season 2 specifically, season 2 mainly follows the aftermath of season 1, with season 1 being where Superman and Lois end up getting in a relationship, and they're trying to not only figure out what's going on with the government as they're trying to fight against Superman, but also trying their absolute best to do right for the city of Metropolis. I definitely enjoy a lot of the Easter eggs that are brought up throughout this entire season, especially with the introduction of villains like Brainiac and Lex Luthor. I also think Supergirl's introduction towards the later half of the season was done really well as well. Also, I can't help but be a fan of the animation. The animation is done super well. I think one of the main complaints that I would have is that some of the more CGI 3D type animation doesn't necessarily blend well with the 2D animation of the rest of the show, specifically with the character Steel and his Iron Man-esque suit. I think that it was very big and bulky and didn't necessarily match not only the character in the actual comics, but also doesn't necessarily match the aesthetic of the animation either. But I think that that was the only real complaint that I had in terms of animation. I think everything else was done pretty well in my opinion. So yes, I truly feel like this is a pretty good show. I think that this is a great Superman adaptation, just given all the other Superman adaptations that we had that I felt like were not necessarily true to the character or the identity of what Superman stands for. Superman isn't Batman, so he's not necessarily dark and brooding all the time. He's more of an upbeat, inspiring type superhero. The superhero that's supposed to inspire other people to be better. The one that's always supposed to be positive. The one that's always supposed to fight harder and just be the shining glimmer of hope for society. And I think that a lot of that gets captured throughout the show. I can also appreciate just Superman's naivety to everything that's going on, with him still trying to learn his powers, him still trying to learn himself, and just learn where he came from exactly. And I think that season 2 does a great job of introducing a lot of those tropes throughout the season, especially with the introduction of Supergirl. I think that her character was done very well, especially as it introduced Brainiac and essentially the cause of the destruction of Krypton. I thought was super interesting. Not to give away too many spoilers on the show, but that does get revealed towards the end, and I do think that it was an interesting twist to have. But nevertheless, it still definitely works in my opinion. Superman as a character has always represented immigration, as he essentially immigrated from a different planet to America, with a lot of that showing how difficult it can be for someone who's migrating from a different place to basically start their whole lives in America. And with My Adventures of Superman, especially in season 2, you gotta see just what the backlash of something like that at the magnitude of Superman will look like. So I'm not here to make this video overly political or anything like that, but personally I don't think that immigration in America has been handled at its absolute best, and a lot of that can be represented throughout the show, as Superman is basically hunted for being different and for being someone who is not originally from Earth, which leads to a lot of things with Amanda Waller and even Lois Lane's father chasing after him throughout both seasons. Not only that, but once Kara, Superman's cousin, is introduced in the show, you also get to see a different aspect of immigration, just in terms of someone who wasn't necessarily raised on Earth, and just seeing what type of impact that would have on her versus someone like Superman, who was essentially raised on Earth his whole life. So yeah, I think the immigration themes are definitely subtle throughout the show, but they're also poignant at the same time, as they definitely represent not only where we are as the country, but they also represent just where Superman is as a character. So yeah, what I will say is that my biggest complaint for the show thus far is that it is not super faithful to the source material of Superman and his rogues gallery, meaning that the show takes a lot of liberties with a lot of the characters, a lot of the characters' origins, and a lot of the character designs throughout the show. Like I said, one example would be with the character Steel, who is more presented in a more giant, bulky sized Iron Man-esque suit, when his suit in the comics is a little bit more slender, more closer to the shape of the human body, essentially. But it's not only just him, it's him, Lex Luthor, Slade, a lot of the villains such as Brainiac, even Metallo. A lot of these characters get name dropped, but when it comes to looking at them, when it comes to their origins, or even just their designs and their execution on the show, it is not the same as it is in the comics. And I think that's fine if you are a fan of Superman and you can point out some of those things. Like, I didn't necessarily know that was Metallo until I realized that they mentioned him as Metallo, and the Metallo that I know didn't necessarily look like the one that's in My Adventures with Superman. So like I said, if you are already aware of Superman's rogues gallery and aware of Superman's just lore and everything like that, I think that the show will be very enjoyable. I will say, if you're not particularly familiar with Superman's lore and everything like that, it may be a little bit jarring for you if you were to decide to go back and get some more context for some of these characters, especially since none of them are being portrayed as accurately as I would like personally. But I do hope, despite them being portrayed inaccurately, that people would still go back and just do more research on these characters, because I do find them to be very interesting. I think that Superman as a character doesn't get a lot of justice when it comes to DC. He's definitely gotten the short end of the stick, him and especially Wonder Woman. But in terms of this video right here, he's definitely been very much undercut just by DC's love and affection for Batman and anything Batman related. So I think that it's good that he's not only gotten his own TV show, but it's also a successful show and a good show overall. So yeah, aside from some of the liberties that the show takes with a lot of the characters and the Superman lore, and aside from some of the more CGI elements being brought into the animation that was a little wonky for me, I think that this show is done superbly. It is very enjoyable, it is very lighthearted, it is very fun to watch, the animation does go hard, and I just think that overall it's just a very nice show, very cute, very enjoyable in the sense that it doesn't necessarily hurt to watch, is appealing to the eyes and ears. Like I said, all of the main actors, the voice actors of the show do an amazing job, and I think that even with the liberties that the show takes, it still does a great job of telling a great story for Superman in a way that can be easily followed by anyone of any age. So yeah, if you haven't watched My Adventures with Superman, I deeply suggest that you find a way to watch it. It is definitely enjoyable, especially if you are a fan of the character, and I can't wait for the new season, as they've already announced that Superboy will be appearing in upcoming season 3, which is super dope. But hey, these are just my opinions. Have you seen My Adventures with Superman? What did you think about it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more videos like it. My name is TevinElChopo. Friends call me Chop, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.